Wake up, commute, work, pay the bills, sleep, and do it all over again. You put in the effort, push your responsibilities up the hill all week, and by Sunday night, the rock slips back to the bottom. The exhaustion we feel in modern life is deeply psychological. It's the creeping suspicion that despite all this frantic motion, no actual ground is gained. The inbox refills, the laundry piles up, and the debts reset. We tolerate this cycle because we assume we're working toward a permanent finish line, a point where the effort pays off, the struggle ends, and we can finally rest in a state of lasting satisfaction. When that payoff never arrives, we're left with a constant, grating friction. We find ourselves trapped between the daily demand for effort and the realization that there is no final reward waiting at the end. Humans are meaning-making machines. For thousands of years, our brains have evolved to seek out patterns, insisting that our struggles must be part of a larger, coherent story. We scream into the void, demanding a reason for our suffering. We ask the universe for a sign, a purpose, or a grand plan that justifies the grind. And the universe responds with absolute, deafening silence. This collision, our biological need for a meaningful plot, crashing straight into the cold indifference of the universe, has a name. Philosophers call it the absurd. Confronting this reality forces a highly uncomfortable, blunt question. If life is truly an unrewarded, repetitive loop with no ultimate purpose, why keep pushing? Why shouldn't we just opt out and stop living entirely? Choosing how to respond to that silence determines whether we simply endure our existence or actually inhabit it. The choice to either surrender to the void or continue the walk back down the mountain defines the rest of our lives. Long before modern office jobs or daily commutes, the ancient Greeks perfectly visualized this specific existential dread. They captured it thousands of years ago in the Myth of Sisyphus. His curse was brutally specific. The gods condemned him to heave an immense boulder up the side of a steep mountain. Every time he neared the top, the rock would slip from his grasp and plummet all the way back down, forcing him to start over for eternity. The gods didn't choose this torture by accident. They understood the mechanics of despair. Forcing a human being into endless, futile labor with absolutely zero hope of a final reward is the cruelest psychological torture imaginable. The myth survives because the image of the rolling stone hits a raw nerve. It reflects our own dread of a life that repeats without a permanent payoff, leaving us exactly where we started every Monday morning. Albert Camus approached this tragedy with the perspective of a man who spent more time on the streets than in a library. He remained a complete outsider to elite ivory tower academia. He was born into the working class of colonial Algeria. He grew up surrounded by stark inequality, navigating crowded, dusty streets under a punishing heat. That environment left little room for abstract illusions. He anchored his worldview in the physical body. He loved the ocean, the sun, and the immediate thrill of playing football. He understood the value of existing fully in the present second, feeling the impact of the game rather than getting lost in theory. But a severe case of tuberculosis cut his athletic ambitions short. Confined to a bed and forced to confront his own mortality, a young Camus had to stare directly into the sheer unfairness of human existence. This crash between his appetite for physical joy and the reality of illness forged a highly pragmatic mindset. Immune to comforting delusions, he demanded a philosophy that actually functioned in the struggle of the real world. Confronting the void, Camus evaluated the standard escapes. He refused to hide behind religious promises of a better afterlife, and he completely rejected suicide as a way to avoid the question. This graph tracks the correlation between effort and expectation. Notice the peaks represent his hope that this time the rock will stay put. Sisyphus suffers specifically because he harbors the expectation that his labor will eventually end. But watch what happens when he abandons the expectation of a finish line. Camus executed a radical pivot, stating, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." When the hope for a final reward disappears, the painful cycle flattens into a state of continuous, flowing action. The exact second Sisyphus accepts his fate and owns his labor, The gods lose all their leverage. They cannot torture a man who embraces the rolling stone as his entire reality. By giving up on a finish line, Sisyphus disarms his captors. He turns a cosmic curse into an assertion of personal mastery, claiming total ownership of his own effort. This logic scales directly to your daily routine. If there is no pre-written script, no cosmic judge, and no ultimate destiny to fulfill at the end of your life, then you are entirely off the hook. Other existentialists of the era, like Jean-Paul Sartre, argued that this lack of universal purpose left you with a crushing burden. They insisted we must bear the responsibility of inventing our own grand meaning from scratch. Camus offered a much lighter alternative. You don't need to engineer a massive purpose to justify breathing. The simple physical act of existing, loving someone, or feeling the sun on your face is entirely enough. When you stop waiting for a glorious future payoff to arrive, your attention snaps back to the present. You can actually engage with and appreciate the immediate sensory reality right in front of you. Realizing that the universe doesn't care about your emails or your mortgage isn't a drop into depression. It is a massive release valve that sets you free. The hard truth is that the boulders in your life aren't going anywhere. The deadlines will keep coming, the dishes will need washing, and the responsibilities will reset. But Camus realized that fully accepting this absurdity unlocks what he called an invincible summer inside us. It is a core of resilient joy that survives right in the middle of the struggle. Imagine Sisyphus walking back down the mountain toward his fallen rock. He isn't hanging his head in bitter defeat. He's walking down with a knowing, defiant smirk, fully aware of the absurdity, and choosing to lift the stone anyway. Pushing the rock simply because you choose to push it, finding satisfaction in the burn of your own muscles and the focus of your own mind, is the ultimate response to an indifferent universe. We are all pushing our own rocks, but you have the choice to stop waiting for a finish line that will never arrive. Claim the rock, own the climb, and turn your daily grind into a joyful, unbreakable rebellion.